Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 8 of the 2023 Tour de France. Guys, this is going to be the last big kilometer length stage here at the Tour de France in 2023 at 201 kilometers, about 125 miles in length. Everything after today's stage is going to be well under 200 kilometers here at the Tour de France, which is a bit strange. The Tour de France really loves having 200, 220, and 240 kilometer stages, but today's going to be the last big one, and it looks like it should be a field sprint stage here, but is it for pure sprinters? I don't think so when you look at the last climb. The last finishing road all the way up to the top here that'll summit is about 750 meters long, about 5% average, but really some sections there like 6 and 7 when it's going to bump up and stair step a little bit to the finish. Now, this is kind of a dangerous stage. We've seen other stages like this in the past. Mads Pedersen won that spectacular stage of the Vuelta last year when Primož Roglič crashed out. Mads Pedersen won, and that's who I'm thinking about as being a big-time favorite here to win the stage. But Wout van Aert has to be the outright favorite, right, from Jumbo-Visma if they want to go for it. Now, can the pure sprinters like Jasper Philipsen, can he do something special? Can Dylan Groenewegen do anything? How about Caleb Ewan? Might be a little steep for the Australian rider from Lotto Destiny, but you got to throw him in the mix. Other pure time sprinters, though, I don't know for sure if they can get up over 700, 750 meters all the way into the line. Now, I had a text sent to me that showed the final climb looked a lot like Catalonia this year when Primož Roglič beat Remco Evenepoel to the finish, but there's not pure big-time sprinters in that race either. So I'm kind of thinking this stage maybe mirrors something that we saw in last year's Tour de France too, where it was stage 8 and Wout van Aert won, but Tadej Pogačar got time bonuses on that stage 8 after Jumbo-Visma rode the whole stage. Now, to be fair, stage 8 of last year's 2022 Tour de France, it kind of stair-stepped up for a bit, but it was probably more like 1.2 kilometers into the finish at 6% versus today's at 750 meters at around 5%. So we really don't know. The riders don't know either, so when they hit kilometer zero, that's why you start seeing Trek Segafredo going up the road. Mads Pedersen was going up the road. Alex Kirsch was attacking and following things left and right. And Jumbo-Visma were trying to keep things under control. We get about 20 kilometers into the stage, and Tim de Klerk, the tractor from Pseudo Quickstep's going up the road in the Breakaway. Man, you don't get to see the tractor up in the Breakaway very often, but he's got some company with him with Anthony Turgis and Anthony De La Place. These two riders will make 3 up there with Tim de Klerk, and they're going to start gaining time. Couple attacks back there just before the leash really breaks here to the 3 riders out front. But like I said, Jumbo-Visma were covering everything, and then we see the Peloton go across the road. 3 riders are going to go up the road, and they're going to extend the gap up to about a maximum time of 5 minutes on today's stage 8 of the Tour de France. Behind, when we come into the first big time energy spent here on stage 8 of the Tour de France, it's the intermediate sprint competition. It's going to take a bike throw from Jasper Philipsen to win the field sprint here for 4th place, as he has a throw against Jordi Meeus from Bora Hansgrohe. After that, things get a little exciting, but only for a short time, because we'll see the break up front there as it's split with the sprinters going away. They're looking backwards, and they got a gap. They're going to start going full gas. It's 12, 15 riders up there, but Jumbo-Visma decided to put their whole team on the front and start driving it. They'll bring back the sprinter group up front. Now we got Jumbo-Visma staying on the front, starting to drive it to bring back these 3 riders up front. They'll get a little help from Albacin de Koenig back there, and we'll see some other teams jump on from time to time. Now we start getting into about 74 kilometers to go, and this is where things are going to start getting interesting here on stage 8, because the first half was basically flat. The last half of stage 8 here starts getting lumpy, bumpy, and rolling all over the place with 2 climbs that'll finish today's stage at 15 kilometers to go and about 10 kilometers to go. And then, of course, you're going to drop down, go all the way in, and climb up 750 meters into the finish with a couple bumps just before that. So we know the action's going to start lighting up at about 75 kilometers to go. We see the group of 3, the time gap starting to come down with the Jumbo-Visma force back there, drilling it with some help of the other teams, and they're getting the gap down under 3 minutes. Now, when we start coming up to 60 kilometers to go, the Peloton bunches up in the back. It must have slowed up in the front, and they start to bunch up big time. And then Mark Cavendish, the Astana rider, goes down and crashes hard. We see him laying on the ground. We got his teammate next to him trying to help him get up. But Mark Cavendish goes to lift up and then falls back down in pain. You see him winching in pain as he's going to lay back down on the concrete here, and this will end Mark Cavendish's last and final Tour de France if he does decide to retire at the end of this 2023 season. They'll load him up in the ambulance, and we'll go back up to the front of the peloton as we see the speeds are starting to increase. We're getting about 40 kilometers to go, and this is when we see the next attack. Kasper Asgreen's going up the road for Soudal Quickstep. Now, Kasper Asgreen, if I back the film all the way up to kilometer 0, he was the first rider to attack here on stage 8, and now he's trying to attack with a 1 minute and 20, 1 minute and 30 gap up to his teammate up there, Tim de Klerk, Anthony de la Place, and Anthony Turgis. Those 3 riders, at least 2 of them, are going to pull hard. We're going to see Tim de Klerk sit on the back a little bit to figure out what's happening to Kasper Asgreen. Well, the peloton's going too fast. At this point in time, Kasper Asgreen, you should just shut the gas off. The first attack, I love the attack with 40 kilometers to go, especially with a teammate up the front, but you got to have some help. You got to have some other riders that are willing to try to attack and blow up Jumbo-Visma back there, and nobody came with you, but he spent about 20 kilometers up the road until he got brought back from the peloton going full gas. Up front, Tim de Klerk, the tractor, he decides to start working with the group of 2, and he's pulling again. But that time gap's getting down under a minute to the peloton being led behind. Now, they had some help back there. Cofidis started jumping in. Intermarché had ridden on the front a little bit. And Trek Segafredo are getting into the action. Now, with the pressure back there, they know the front group of 3 are under big-time troubles to try to win today's Stage 8 of the Tour de France. We get into the penultimate climb here, and this is when Anthony Turgis decides to light everybody up. He's going solo. The tractor's trying to bring him back, but losing time on Anthony Turgis. And those 2 in the back, Anthony de la Place from Arkea Samsic and Tim de Klerk from Soudal Quickstep, will get wrapped up later in this stage, but not too much later because they're going full gas. We see on the penultimate climb, it's Jumbo-Visma drilling it. Tispinut's on the front. He's trying to string this whole group out, put some nails into the pure time sprinter, so Wout van Aert has a better chance of winning today's Stage 8. Up front, Anthony Turgis. He's trying to hold off the peloton best he can, and we're coming in to the last and final rated KOM climb here on Stage 8. Anthony Turgis has got about a 30-second gap on the peloton behind. It's Wilco Kelderman. Wilco Kelderman's one of their climbers on Jumbo-Visma, and he is throwing everything into it. We look a little further back. Jonas Vingegaard's still there. Wout van Aert, Christophe Laporte, of course. Then we go further back to about 15th position. That's Tadej Pogačar from UAE Team Emirates. He's a little far back, so we're going to see him slide up, move up about 7-8 spots in the peloton so he can get closer up front because Wilco Kelderman's throwing everything into it. As Wilco Kelderman brings this up about a kilometer into this climb, he's about done just before that, and then we see Christophe Laporte get on the front. The Frenchman's going full gas for Wout van Aert and Jonas Vingegaard, who's holding on for dear life. We look behind. Look at that. Tadej Pogačar, UAE Team Emirates, coming up the left side as Christophe Laporte's going full gas. Guys, this would take a mammoth amount of effort for a normal human being, but the Slovenian has got some form as he's moving up the left side. He'll come up and he'll slot just behind the Jumbo-Visma train, but guess what? That's Brian Cocard there. The Frenchman does not want to give up a space. At this moment, if you're Brian Cocard, just back off the throttle. You don't want to be in the wind. You don't want to fight with the number 1 rider in the world, Tadej Pogačar. Back off the throttle, slot behind Tadej Pogačar, and you'll be safe. In the group already, behind Tadej Pogačar and Brian Cocard, host of good riders, and Dylan Groenewegen from Jaco Alula surviving here on this last and final climb of Stage 8. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's there. Trek Segafredo's got a host of riders near the front here, and Mads Pedersen is one of them. They'll go over the top with Christophe Laporte pulling full gas. Wait a minute, Christophe Laporte still pulling full gas? Guys, I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. I thought, Jumbo-Visma, okay, I would have never done this plan anyways because you got the race leader in the yellow jersey here at the Tour de France, and his name is Jonas Vingegaard. There's no way I'd have Christophe Laporte or be trying to win this stage, but I understand why they're doing it. They're one of the biggest budgeted teams in the professional peloton. But when you got Christophe Laporte going up over the final climb with 10 kilometers to go, leading the peloton and blowing everybody up, the only thing I'm thinking when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, who's going to control the race? with Christophe Laporte on the front. Jonas Vingegaard can't ride. He's got the race leader's yellow jersey. Christophe Laporte's on the front drilling it, so when the attacks come, he's going to get tired. Wout van Aert can't ride because he's got to do the sprint. Only guy left in the group that could ride if they have to is going to be Sepp Kuss, the American, and he goes uphill, not downhill, not flats, and he doesn't do sprints. So this is looking kind of bad with just under 10 kilometers to go. Christophe Laporte's on the front. I'm thinking, who's going to lead out Wout van Aert if Christophe Laporte's pulling the whole way into the finish? Well, we get into 8 kilometers to go. Anthony Turgis, he's wrapped up from Total Energies. Now we got a full chance for a victory here for anybody that's got the legs to win today's stage 8. We see with 7 kilometers to go, my man Victor Campenaerts is at the front throwing an attack because there's only Christophe Laporte trying to control the peloton. Victor Campenaerts is going up the road. We see the group split back there with about 12-15 riders in the front group. Tadej Pogacar, the Slovenian, in the white youth jersey there. He's made the front split. Christophe Laporte's in the front split. Wout van Aert from Jumbo-Visma's in the front split. But let's look back at the second group here of what's left of the peloton. That's Jonas Vingegaard in about 7th, 8th position there. He missed the split. And he's got his 2 teammates in the front. Christophe Laporte will bring back the group up front with my man Victor Campenaerts and control things, slow it down a little bit, and then Pseudo Quickstep will close the gap from the back. Luckily for Jonas Vingegaard, because the only teammate he's got left is Sepp Kuss. Now we get under 6 kilometers to go. Simon Yates crashes in the back. He grabs his bike, but let me back it just back up where the crash was. Now look way up there to the right side of the picture. That's his teammate, Chris Harper. Chris Harper saw the crash. The experienced rider, he was smart here and intelligent. He hit the brakes as hard as he could, slowed down on the right side of the road, and look at him doing a U-turn, sprinting back up the road. Now this is illegal actually, as UCI rules state you can't go backwards on the course, but he's doing it anyways, sprinting up the climb because he knows 4th place on the general classification. Simon Yates has gone down. He has got to be there for his main leader. Harper sprints back up there, and we see just as Simon Yates is getting his bike and realizing he can't get the chain back on, he'll drop it on the side of the road like it's worth nothing, and his mechanic will run over with a spare bike, hand it to him. They'll lift the bike over the crashed bike in front of them. He'll jump on it and start pedaling down the hill. The same time, Chris Harper's doing another U-turn to go down the hill with his race leader, Simon Yates. Those guys will spend this next kilometers chasing full gas. Up front, what's happening? Trek Segafredo, they got numbers up there. They got solid numbers. They're looking good, and they got control of the group. We'll see Albacin de Koenig take over control just for a little bit, and we'll get under about 3.5 kilometers to go, and we go back to the group chasing. It's Simon Yates, Chris Harper going full gas, everything he can. Now let's go back up to the front of the GC peloton here, what's left of it anyways on stage 8. Look at that. That's Luka Mezgits and Dylan Groenewegen from Jaco Lula. That's the teammates of Simon Yates, who's sitting 4th on the general classification. They're going to try to win the stage instead of going back for 4th place rider here at the Tour de France. Are you guys knuckleheads? This finish at 750 meters long, I don't know if I've ever recalled Dylan Groenewegen winning in a class size field here at the Tour de France level, going uphill for a sprint finish. But anyways, Luka Mezgits, Dylan Groenewegen, we see him off on the left side of the group there. They're going to go for the stage win, and they're going to leave 4th place on the general classification here at the Tour de France with only 1 teammate. Now we're coming into about 2.5 kilometers to go. Trek Segafredo's looking fantastic on the front. Skilmos, he's a climber, but he can ride the front too. Remember back there on stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 when Wout van Aert was trying to win those stages, but Jonas Vingegaard couldn't get on the front for Wout van Aert? Well, Skilmos is about the same size as Jonas Vingegaard, and he's driving it on the front. Tony Galopin's locked on his wheel. They got numbers all over the place. Trek Segafredo, 5 total, because behind Tony Galopin, well, we got Alex Kirsch there, and then behind him, Stuyvens is there, and then behind Stuyvens, well, it's Mads Pedersen to round out 5 guys for Trek Segafredo. We get a little bit further in. Skilmos is pulling off. It's time for Tony Galopin, my old teammate from the Radio Shack days. The Frenchman's throwing in everything he can to bring Trek Segafredo's Mads Pedersen into a good position for the last 750 meters of today's stage 8. With Galopin on the front, he'll pull for a few hundred meters. He'll pull off, and Alex Kirsch is basically a full lead-out man. He's got some skills and some power. He's doing a marvelous job coming into 1 kilometer to go for Trek Segafredo. They'll come into a left, followed by another left, and then we start seeing things get excited because the road is starting to go up. Now, if I back the film up just a little bit before the 1 kilometer kilometer to go sign when the road was still stair-stepping up and Trek Segafredo was controlling everything. Let me show you where Jonas Vingegaard is. Well, he's way back there, about 30th spot, but Tadej Pogačar, the Slovenian, he's got teammates still wrapped around him, and he's closer to the front. We'll go back up here now as the climb starts proper with about 600, 500 meters to go. They're starting to go wide back there. With 500 meters, it's Matteo Trentin pulling Tadej Pogačar up the right side of the road to get himself in good position. Matteo Trentin will come up to about 500 meters to go. 450 meters to go. Well, look, it's a time for Christophe Laporte to go to work again. Guys, this is impressive that Christophe Laporte is still here. He's starting the acceleration. He's got Wout van Aert on his wheel. Now let me back the film up again to about 500 meters. But instead of on the right where Tadej Pogačar was just behind Mads Pedersen and Julian Alaphilippe as Trentin was pulling him up, let's look over to the left. Left side of the road, that's Jaco Alula right there, Luka Mezgec. He was coming up the left side of the road. Dylan Groenewegen was on his wheel, but he let Luka Mezgec go left, and Dylan Groenewegen decided to go through the middle. From about 500 meters to about 400 meters to go, Dylan Groenewegen somehow has cut all the way from the left side to the right side of the road for the sprinter who's trying to get over there to the wheel of Mads Pedersen. Now let's go back up to about 450 meters to go as we see Christophe Laporte going full gas. Just after that, we're going to see Mathieu van der Poel throw in his attack. He throws in his attack going up the left. He's got Jasper Philipsen on his wheel. They're passing Wout van Aert. Look over on the right. That's Mads Pedersen, Trek Segafredo. He's coming by on the right side there of Wout van Aert in the middle. With Mathieu van der Poel going left, with Mads Pedersen going right, they're going to come up too quickly there on Christophe Laporte, so they're blocking in his sprinter, Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert's got no place to go. He's trying to accelerate up the left, but Christophe Laporte's dropping back fast, and they're going to almost overlap wheels at about 225 meters to go. That's what's holding up Wout van Aert. Mads Pedersen is going on the right side. Mathieu van der Poel's going on the left, and Mathieu van der Poel's going to win as they do the small little drag race against Mads Pedersen, but Jasper Philipsen still locked on the wheel. Jasper Philipsen, he's going to try to hold on to Mathieu van der Poel's wheel. Mads Pedersen, though, starting to gain. Look at the elbow there. He gives a little nudge there to Mathieu van der Poel at just about 190 meters to go. He's touching the hip there of Mathieu van der Poel, and then Mathieu van der Poel goes hard left and blows. That leaves the road open for Mads Pedersen from Lidl Trek. He's had his whole team on the front. Now he's throwing in, going full gas. He's going up, and the road's going to stair step up where we see about 50 meters to go. It'll start to plateau, but let me go a little bit further back behind that, because as they're coming up the hill, Mads Pedersen's head will drop. It'll lift up. He'll look to see where he's going. It'll drop back down. Jasper Philipsen started his sprint at about 100 meters to go. 50 meters is where it's going to plateau. They're getting close to side by side, but Jasper Philipsen still not quite even with Lidl Trek's Mads Pedersen. Now we'll see Mads Pedersen. He does one more big effort. 25 meters to go as the road started to flatten out there. Jasper Philipsen looks to the right, and you know he's done. He's looking to the right now because his legs are falling off, and he's hoping he can get second. Mads Pedersen sets up and gives a big time roar to win another stage victory here at the Tour de France. The Danish rider is going to be celebrated when he gets to Valhalla eventually after his career is all said and done. He's celebrating big time. After the stage, we'll look as he comes across. His teammates will all meet him. There'll be hugs and celebrations big time from Lidl Trek after a marvelous stage 8 teamwork here to deliver Mads Pedersen to a victory. Second on the stage, Jasper Philipsen got second, but let's look back. Let's see what happened to Dylan Groenewegen. Well, we're coming in about 15 meters to go, and we'll see Wout van Aert elbow going in, rubbing the leg there of Dylan Groenewegen as he comes through and gets third to round out the podium here for Jumbo-Visma, getting third on the stage. Fourth on the stage, Dylan Groenewegen crosses the line for fourth, does not win today's stage, and gives up fourth place on the general classification for Simon Yates. So fourth on the stage, they went in with two riders, with Luka Mezgec and Dylan Groenewegen to try to win the stage. Got fourth, but gave up fourth on the general classification, as Simon Yates will lose almost 50 seconds on today's stage and get dropped by 2 positions because Carlos Rodriguez and his brother dropped over him on the general classification. He went from 4th to 6th. Everything else in the GC stayed the same. In the top, of course, the yellow jersey, Jonas Vingegaard still has it. Now, when I look at today's stage, I don't like the tactics at all. There's no way I'm coming into the Tour de France wearing the race leader's yellow jersey. Now I'm saying we're going to race for the stage. It doesn't make any sense. They went all in with all of their teammates. And on top of that, use Christophe Laporte on the last KOM climb, that summit with 10 kilometers to go. If you're using them there, what do you expect them to have left when you hit the final 750-meter climb? On top of that, Wout van Aert should have felt the speed drop a little bit from Christophe Laporte. Once you feel it drop, at that moment, you got to know riders are coming. And we have already seen in the other three sprint stages here at the Tour de France that Alpecine's de Koenig, Mathieu van der Poel, is not afraid to keep things close, pass tight, and bring Jasper Phillips into the front. And we know Mathieu van der Poel will always jump a little bit early because he's not trying to win the stage. He's trying to bring his teammate Jasper Phillips in up to the front to win the stage. That means he's got to go early. Wout van Aert, the big guys, needed to know it was coming. Mads Pedersen saw it coming. They went around Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert almost crashed into his teammate Christophe Laporte. And then it was a two-way race. Well, maybe one and a half there because Mads Pedersen looked fantastic all the way to the finish line here on stage 8 of the Tour de France. Guys, tomorrow's another big-time mountain stage, about 180 kilometers. They're going up Puy de Dôme, and it's going to be more or less kind of flat to the start there of Puy de Dôme with just the small categorized climbs before that, and then it's going to be a big-time battle going up a monster climb. I'm interested when I'm sitting up on the Chesterfield wondering, will it be Jumbo-Visma after some big-time effort here on stage 8 of the Tour de France throughout their whole team, with the exception of Jonas Vingegaard, to try to win the stage with Wout van Aert? Are they going to have the power to start that last climb, Puy de Dôme, and drill it for Jonas Vingegaard? Or are they going to try to finally play the stage quiet and see if UAE team members Tadej Pogacar will drill it going up Puy de Dôme and try to take back the race leader's yellow jersey here at the 2023 Tour de France? Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.